On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
And the judges are telling me, well, how about that? You won another Fool Us trophy.
Yes.
Congratulations. Vitaly Beckman, everyone.
That's what it sounded like on a recent episode of the long-running American reality TV show called Penn and Teller Fool Us, when Vancouver illusionist Vitaly Beckman stumped the entertainers and the judges for the third time in his career. He won a trophy and an invitation to perform the same trick on stage a couple of weeks later on April 26th in Las Vegas as the closing act for Penn and Teller's very popular live show. Now, it's hard to describe what Beckman did in a podcast, but I'll try. He was on the stage. He carried in a painting of sorts covered by a canvas so we couldn't see what was in it. And on a table, there were some pieces of fruit and an old clock.
How's that?
It's up to you. Sure. Okay. Now, interesting. You did not have 10 o'clock in mind when you came to help me.
No.
You didn't think of any time at all when you came to help me, let alone 10:04. So this will be our moment. 10:04 will be the moment when time stands still. And we're creating a still life. So please stand behind this table.
Okay.
The MC, Brooke Burke, is a former Dancing with the Stars winner. He asked her to wind up the clock to whatever time she wanted and then arrange the fruit wherever she liked and make a still life model. And then, to the amazement of the studio audience, and more importantly, the judges and the hosts, Penn Jillette and Raymond Teller, Beckman unveiled the canvas he'd brought in, and it showed the clock and the fruit in the exact positions which the MC had placed with the same time she'd chosen.
And this painting was sitting here the entire time. Nobody came close to it. It's a painting I've done years ago. And now you will see what makes this work a true masterpiece. They say that art imitates life, but on rare occasion, it is life that imitates art. Because right here, a watermelon, painting of a watermelon. And then we got a clock. What was the time? Was it 10?
10:04.
10:04. Exactly, 10:04. And of course, it got all...
Although he assured me he'd never met her before that moment, and so she couldn't have been in cahoots with him to help with the trick. For Beckman, beating the veteran Las Vegas magicians for a third time in less than 10 years is an important milestone, to say the least. And he's also one of only 4 other people who have accomplished this in the 11 seasons of the reality show. Beckman, though, has been performing for nearly 30 years, weaving illusion and his passion for fine art and science. To please his parents, when he was growing up in Israel, he agreed to take an engineering degree at the Technion University in Haifa first, before he moved to Vancouver, where his brother already lived, and began pursuing his stage career full-time. I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. Welcome to the CJN Daily, a podcast of the Canadian Jewish News, and made possible in part thanks to the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Gronowski-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. Vitaly Beckman was born in the Soviet Union, today it's Belarus, and his family emigrated to Israel when he was 8. He jokes that when he began painting as a young boy, his parents painted over his paintings with whitewash. These days, he says they're proud of his success. He's been based in Canada for nearly 20 years, and he goes home to visit his parents in Israel regularly. Now, in his early 40s, he weaves his art and also the world of nature into his illusions, which he dreams up by himself. Sometimes in his shows, he makes photographs move like video. He has paintbrushes travel through the air by themselves. Real plant leaves appear magically on artists' canvas. And he's known for taking driver's licenses from audience members and making their photos jump onto other people's ID cards. Beckman was relatively unknown when he first appeared on Penn and Teller in 2016. This series is considered one of the premier TV showcases for illusionists on the international stage and attracts millions of views. He has since had sold-out shows off-Broadway and in New York's Times Square. I caught up with Vitaly Beckman a few days ago, fresh off his recent gig in Las Vegas.
Thanks so much for having me, Ellen.
Well, it's an honor to meet you, and congratulations on the major news a couple of weeks ago, and you were the third time fooling Penn and Teller on their show on the CW network. Amazing trick.
Thank you.
And I know are we allowed to call it a trick, or is it better to say illusion? I don't want to insult.
I like the word illusion, but you're allowed to call it a trick. That's, I'm not offended, but I just think, trick generally cheapens it if you just call it trick.
Yeah, I apologize. Let's call it the proper way. It takes more months and years of training, not just to pull a coin out of it.
Yeah.
Right?
But trick is fine.
There you go. I just ruined the whole interview. Okay, here we go on the wrong foot. How does it actually work to be asked to be on, or do you have to apply?
Yeah, well, this was my third time, so the producers know me. But the very first time, which was like years, how many years? I don't know, 7 years, maybe 8 years ago, was the first time I appeared on their show. I applied, I emailed them, and I didn't even know how to get on the show. So I found a company that's like the parent company of that production. And I sent them my video, and they forwarded it to the right people. And then I was invited back. I didn't even know who to send the email to. Now it's no secret. They seeking people to apply all the time. And there is they have an Instagram page, and they constantly say, send us your tricks, right? and so, but nowadays, we kind of, they know me, so it's very easy for me to get on the show. It's just that I actually, after the first time, I never thought I'll go again. But then the pandemic happened, and I heard that they're going to do an online season, a virtual season. And I thought, well, why don't I just, suddenly I had the time, I stopped touring. So I did the second time. But the thing is, once you do a second time, then, you kind of want to do a third time now because, 3 is a better number. I want to do it live again. So so it's nice to do it 3 times.
What's the time sort of frame for that? When you were accepted, how did that work?
This season was unusually long time. It wasn't like that before, but this specific season, we filmed it in the summer, last July, and they aired it only in March.
So you had to, like the NDA, you couldn't say anything at all till it was on that. That's a long time to keep quiet.
Yeah, I'm a magician, so I'm good keeping secrets, right? I don't have a problem with that. Obviously, my wife knew, my parents knew, my closest friends that I can trust knew, but otherwise I was keeping my mouth shut.
I know that there's been controversy with Penn and Teller not being, and I'm going to read it to you, this magician sort of membership of this special group because they reveal how they do their tricks. That's right?
There was, I don't know if it's still the case, but there was some controversy. I think especially the Magic Circle in England, if I'm not mistaken, because they were revealing some magic in the past. They wouldn't accept them as members. That said, most of what Penn and Teller revealed are not really major secrets because most people are disappointed if you tell them how magic works.
You didn't have to do that after you won to show how the sausage is made, right?
I didn't have to, but you have to tell the judge, and the producers know how you do it. So they have a criteria to judge by. Because otherwise you can just say, well, that's not how I did it, but how do you prove it? I think the judges knew, maybe they did not know all the details. And maybe that's why they were struggling, because they didn't know all the nuances. But I did show Teller because I was just performing there in Vegas, and I just said, hey, if you want to, I'll show you exactly how it works. And he was absolutely floored. His jaw
was on the floor because he didn't believe how it actually worked.
Because you won that third award, you get to do a live show in Vegas with them.
Yes.
That was just like after Pesach, right? April 26th.
Yeah. It was just a few weeks ago.
What did you have to perform? The same?
Yes, the same act. So they're so nice. They let you close their show. And they introduced me as the closer. So, in a way, they laughed that they're my opening act. And then I got, you get to hang out with them a bit. I was backstage and we were chatting and sharing ideas. And it was a lot of fun. And see, Teller, his parents, as he told me, were painters. And so
Jewish also.
Jewish, yeah. And so his whole house was full of still life paintings. So he was absolutely impressed, and he said a lot of such nice things. I wish I could remember them, but he said a lot of great things about the act and the painting that I revealed at the end.
And the pomegranate, I was watching that saying, it's Rosh Hashanah, that's our new fruit. I was looking for all the Jewish sort of the nuances there.
Yeah. I just thought these fruits look very artistic, and I like their color. And
You said you were down there in Vegas. Have you ever had a chance to meet, of course, your idol or the person who's inspired you, David Copperfield?
I never met him in person, no. But I got a lot of also inspiration from outside of magic, from various artists, painters, movie stars, comedians. And the last 10, 20 years, I try not to see too much magic because you get to be influenced, and I don't want to be influenced.
What's the most challenging issue you had with that last third win?
It's a very complex illusion. And so when I went to appear on the show, I had to really look like I don't do anything technically, and yet I have to do so much, both in terms of mental memorization and physical work. And when you know that Teller and Penn and Teller are watching you so closely, then you have to stay calm, like nothing really, like I'm not doing anything. You cannot telegraph with your body language that you're doing something, because they are so good reading your body language. And so that was a very big challenge. And then just before I was going to appear, there was something that was malfunctioning, and I had to fix it like 2-3 minutes before I was up on stage.
We won't be able to tell, right, when we watch?
No, it actually worked out really well at the end.
Do you get to practice like a warm-up before they come on, or you just have to do it cold? Behind the scenes, you do the practicing and then you just do it live?
You need to do a rehearsal, dress rehearsal, because they need to know how to film. When you come for the show, they hide you. You go through a different path to the theater, to the stage, so there's no chance to encounter Penn and Teller. So they are not even aware that who's on the show that day, because otherwise they can look them up and see, and also Brooke, the host, she wasn't there as well. So it's very, very honest. There's no prearrangement of any kind. A lot of people, if you read the funny comments under the YouTube video, there are like hundreds of comments where people say she's in on it, or that the painting is a screen or electronic ink, or all kinds of. People today, they try to explain everything with technology and some high-tech impossible technology. It's so funny.
Well, I'm sure ChatGPT will figure it out at some point, what you do, right?
I don't know. Good luck.
Good luck.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.
Tell me a bit about, there's a clock there, which you mentioned about your family's clock. And I've seen, and our producer also noticed, that you bring a lot of your family nostalgic stories into it. So tell me about why that's important to you, and some of the other objects maybe that you like people to know about.
Well, before I did magic, I used to paint, and my parents were encouraging me. They thought maybe one day I'll even be a painter as a kid before I went to do magic. So now every time I do some kind of a new illusion, I perhaps subconsciously I draw something from my childhood or from the days I used to paint or, did stuff like that. And I try to incorporate it.
A lot of people who would be growing up in a Jewish family, as happened, I think, to you, is they want you to go into medicine or they want you to be engineering.
Of course.
So you did that. How do your parents now feel that you're, successful and off Broadway and
Right.
Are they finally coming around to the idea?
I have Jewish parents. They will never come around. I think the words of my parents were that we really were against you doing this, and we were hoping you will pursue engineering. But when we saw your billboards on Times Square, we realized that what's happening to our family. I think they came around after seeing those huge billboards. I think they felt better.
Speaking about parents, though, and about your growing up in Israel, I noticed that you talk a lot about growing up in the Soviet Union, and then you don't really mention a lot about Israel too much. And I'm wondering if that's something on purpose, because how things are for Jewish performers now, it's tough. It's a tough time to be Israeli and Jewish in the arts world.
Yeah, I think it's always a tough time to be Jewish or Israeli, no matter the time.
True, but a lot of artists have been canceled or there have been protests, and I'm wondering how that has impacted your last 18, 19 months, if you've noticed it at all or not.
Well, at least the people who hire me, they're not very vocal politically for or against Israel, at least not that I noticed. But, people in general, of course. But as far as your comment that I do bring out Soviet Union, but not so much Israel, I think possibly it's might be, now that I think about it, maybe it is related that, you see, there was a time before the war with Ukraine that it was okay to be Russian, but Israel, you were kind of like, you were risking perhaps, being not so well accepted. But after the war with Ukraine, it was better to be Israeli than Russian or Belarusian or whatever. And now it's better just not to be anyone, because every time there is a period of time where it's not good to be this or it's not good to be that. I'm proud Israeli Jewish person. I was never hiding. See, when the first time I was on Penn and Teller Fulas, I did say I was born in Soviet Union, and for some reason, they took it as if I'm Russian, and they even put like a Siberia map behind me, and I was kind of disappointed with that. So after that, I realized I probably shouldn't have said it that way because it sends the wrong message. So since then, I if somebody asked me, I would, where are you from? I say I grew up in Israel.
But I'm just wondering, so you've never had in the last few months or any problems being an Israeli Jewish artist in the field? Because a lot of people are getting pushed back, canceled. It's hard. So I'm just curious. And that's good if not, but...
Yeah. I'm also kind of careful where I go. For instance, I did have an offer to perform in Toronto, to do like a 6 weeks run in Toronto this summer. And anyway, it didn't happen for different reasons. But I did have a concern seeing what's happening in Toronto to the Jewish community. One of my thinking was, do I really want to be in an environment like that? I mean, I don't know. I don't live in Toronto. Maybe it's...
Okay, but you in Vancouver have similar problems too. I mean,
we do, but from what I see...
What's her name? Miriam Leibicki got canceled, her show. She's the comic artist.
Yeah,
right?
But maybe to me, it seems that Toronto is so much worse. And again, maybe it's because it just seems, oh my goodness, I don't know how people live in Toronto, the Jewish people who live in there. And so I feel like Vancouver is a bit less, I feel like there's less of it. That's maybe one of the reasons.
You're at a synagogue that got firebombed.
Yeah,
Hello.
yeah. No, that's true. Yeah.
No.
But I don't see like marches like what I see in Toronto, though, in Vancouver at least.
People need a break from this horrible what's been happening in the world, in Ukraine, Belarus too, all the politics, Trump, everything is, but how can magic and illusion and your work solve these problems, even if maybe temporarily?
It may sound pompous, but I think art is the solution to today's problems, because the problem is the division and everybody is in his own camp and echo chamber. Art brings out all the people. When I perform for an audience, I don't ask what your political opinion, they're all humans. And for a moment, for an hour, 2 hours, they don't even realize that that somebody that sits next to them, they maybe would fight with them otherwise. That's, I think, the solution.
So you have to get all the warring sides to come and have, I guess, peace by illusion. You'll get Putin and Trump and Zelensky and the Hamas and Netanyahu.
No,
and
that's
Ben
not what I
all
mean.
in your theater.
No. I think, look, obviously this whole hate, division in politics, it trickles down from politicians to regular people. But if we can uplift the regular people, then the trickling down aspect won't be so strong. And I think social media also escalates that. And I think art is also it's an antidote to social media in general, because it forces people to look at each other in the eye and be, in person. When you're on social media, I think it encourages kind of a less civil discourse.
Yeah, because there's no threat in yelling at someone if you're in your basement and no one can see you, right?
Yeah.
Behind your computer.
Exactly.
And you mentioned Toronto. What are some of the other projects maybe that we'll be seeing you do now that you're done in Las Vegas for the next few months? What's on the horizon? You're allowed to tell us.
I'm working on several things for already a year. We're working on a TV series with a couple of producers, but it's a slow process, and right now Hollywood and all the TV industry are a little bit down, but we'll keep working it. We're hoping that might pick up, and I'm also working on a new live show, all kinds of projects like that, new magic.
You do corporate stuff, though, I read.
Yes.
What was it like performing together a few years ago for Sylvester Stallone and the Tikva orphanage in Ukraine?
Oh, the Tikva,
where you were supporting that.
Oh, they were so wonderful. I remember that was such a nice event.
Let's go back to the beginning when we talked about the last episode. On Reddit, there's a whole list. Somebody made a list of all the people who fooled Penn and Teller over the 11 years. I don't know if you've seen this list. I can send it to you. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's one person that fooled them 6 times, Helen Coughlin. One person that fooled them 5 times named Jandro. And then there's Jandro. Yeah. Thank you. And then there's nobody for 4. And then there's you guys, and you're at the top of the list. So basically, there's only 2 people ahead of you that have ever fooled them more.
Yeah.
That's a huge thing.
Yes.
How does that sit with you now? And you're still it's almost a year that it happened, but we only found out about it recently, right? So
no, it's great. And like I said, when we started talking, I never intended to go 3 times. I never thought that magic is main focus is about fooling people. Like I said, my philosophy about magic is that it's a form of art. And it should inspire people. It should make people feel like they want to do something great with their life, because that's what watching art did for me.
Is there anything that you want to tell our listeners that they should be watching for, how they find your stuff so that they can support you and see what you do next?
Yeah, my website is eveningofwonders.com, and you can follow me on Facebook, Instagram. So illusionist Vitaly, Vitaly, on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and apparently the person who does my social media says I should open a TikTok, so we're gonna do that as well.
So nice to have met you.
Such a pleasure.
And I really enjoyed talking to you. And let's see you do your next show. You'll let us know when.
Absolutely.
And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily, made possible in part thanks to the generous support of the Ira Gluskin and Maxine Granovsky-Gluskin Charitable Foundation. Our show is produced by Zachary Judah Kaufman and Andrea Varsany. The executive producer is Michael Freeman, and our theme music is by Dov Beck-Levine. Don't forget, you can get free home delivery of the CJN's quarterly print magazine and enter our contest for a chance to win $500 in cash for new subscribers only, all free. Just sign up at thecjn.ca/subscribe. And thanks for listening.
On the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz comes an unprecedented exhibition about one of history's darkest moments. Auschwitz, not long ago, not far away, features more than 500 original objects, first-hand accounts, and survivor testimonies that tell the powerful story of the Auschwitz concentration camp, its history and legacy, and the underlying conditions that allowed the Holocaust to happen. On now exclusively at ROM. Tickets at rom.ca.